In the small town of Maple Ridge, life moved at a slow and steady pace. The streets were lined with old brick buildings, cozy family homes, and the occasional diner where locals gathered to share stories over coffee. Nestled on the edge of town was a modest garage called Carter's Auto Repair. It wasn't fancy or flashy, but it had earned a reputation for getting things done when others couldn't. This was all thanks to its owner, Ethan Carter, a man who lived and breathed engines. Ethan wasn't your typical mechanic. He didn't have expensive tools or a degree in engineering. What he did have was an uncanny ability to listen to machines as if they were speaking directly to him. Whether it was a sputtering car engine or a broken lawnmower, Ethan could hear what was wrong before even opening the hood. His hands were calloused from years of hard work, and his coveralls were always stained with grease, but there was a certain pride in how he carried himself. People trusted him because he never promised miracles. He just delivered results. Despite his skill, business hadn't been good lately. Big chain repair shops had opened up nearby, drawing customers away with shiny advertisements and discounts. Ethan's little garage struggled to compete. Bills piled up and money was tight. His wife, Claire, tried her best to stay positive, but she couldn't hide her worry. Every night after dinner, she would sit at the kitchen table going over their finances, while Ethan tinkered in the garage, trying to stretch every dollar as far as it could go. One crisp autumn afternoon, as Ethan leaned against the side of his garage drinking a cup of lukewarm coffee, a sleek black car rolled into the driveway. It was unlike anything Maple Ridge usually saw, a luxury vehicle that gleamed under the sunlight. The engine growled softly as the driver stepped out. He was a tall man in his 50s dressed in a tailored suit that screamed wealth. His name was Mr. Grayson, and he introduced himself with a firm handshake. "I've heard good things about you, Mr. Carter," Mr. Grayson said, his voice calm but commanding. "I'm hoping you can help me with something." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Well, I'll do my best. What seems to be the problem?" Mr. Grayson gestured toward the car. "This is more complicated than your average repair job. I've taken it to several experts already, but none of them could figure it out. Frankly, I'm running out of options." Ethan wiped his hands on a rag and walked over to the car. At first glance, it looked perfect. Pristine paint, spotless, tires, and not a scratch in sight. But when he popped the hood, his eyebrows shot up. The engine bay was filled with components that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie rather than a car. There were wires everywhere, tiny screens displaying streams of data, and parts that seemed to hum faintly with energy. "Wow," Ethan muttered under his breath. "This isn't exactly standard equipment." Mr. Grayson nodded. "It's experimental technology. Let's just say this car is special. Lately, though, it's been acting strange. Sometimes it won't start. Other times it stalls randomly, and no one can tell me why." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. Experimental tech wasn't his area of expertise. Most days he dealt with worn-out brake pads and leaky radiators, not futuristic gadgets. Still, there was something intriguing about the challenge. Maybe it was the way Mr. Grayson spoke. His tone suggested desperation mixed with hope. Or maybe it was the thrill of tackling something completely new. Whatever it was, Ethan found himself nodding. "I'll take a look," he said finally. "Can't promise anything, but I'll see what I can do." Claire wasn't thrilled when Ethan told her about the project later that evening. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, folding her arms across her chest. "You're already stretched thin. Do we really need another headache?" "It's not just about the money," Ethan replied, leaning back in his chair. "This is different. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. If I can fix it, it might open some doors for us. Besides, Mr. Grayson seems desperate. He wouldn't have come here if he had better options." Claire sighed but didn't argue further. She knew how much Ethan loved solving puzzles, especially ones involving machines. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that this job might bring more trouble than it was worth. Over the next few days, Ethan threw himself into the task. He spent hours poring over manuals, which weren't particularly helpful, and running tests with whatever tools he had available. The car resisted diagnosis at every turn. Diagnostic scanners returned error messages that made no sense. Components heated up unexpectedly, then cooled down just as quickly. It was maddening. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan sat cross-legged on the garage floor, staring at the open engine bay. Claire brought him a sandwich and watched silently for a moment. "You look exhausted," she said gently. "Maybe you should take a break." "I can't," Ethan replied, shaking his head. "There's something here, I just can't put my finger on it yet." "What makes you think you'll find it? You said yourself this isn't your usual kind of work." "That's true," Ethan admitted. "But sometimes, the hardest problems are the ones that teach you the most. I feel like I'm close, I just need to keep pushing." His determination paid off late that night. After dismantling part of the engine, Ethan noticed something odd. A small module tucked away behind a cluster of wires. It wasn't labeled in any of the diagrams he'd studied, which struck him as strange. Carefully, he removed it and examined it under a magnifying lamp. The surface was etched with intricate patterns, almost like circuitry, but finer and more delicate than anything he'd ever seen. As he turned it over in his hands, a thought occurred to him. What if this wasn't just a mechanical issue? What if the problem was rooted in software, or worse, something beyond traditional programming altogether? The realization hit him like a bolt of lightning. This wasn't just a car. It was a machine powered by artificial intelligence. Somewhere along the line, the AI must have developed a glitch causing the erratic behavior. Armed with this new insight, Ethan began searching online for information about self-learning systems. By dawn, he had pieced together enough knowledge to attempt a fix. Using spare parts scavenged from other projects and a soldering iron borrowed from a neighbor, Ethan crafted a makeshift solution. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. When he reinstalled the modified module and started the engine, the car purred to life without a single hiccup. Exhausted but triumphant, Ethan leaned back against the wall of the garage. For the first time, in days, he allowed himself to relax. Little did he know this victory would set off a chain of events that would change his life forever. The days following Ethan's success with the mysterious black car passed quickly, but they weren't without tension. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that he'd stumbled onto something far bigger than he'd initially realized. The car wasn't just a vehicle. It was a piece of advanced technology, something that seemed decades ahead of its time. As he cleaned up his tools and tidied the garage, Ethan found himself replaying every step he'd taken to fix it. He wondered if he'd truly solved the problem or simply patched it temporarily. Claire noticed her husband's unease during breakfast one morning. "You've been quiet," she said, setting a plate of scrambled eggs in front of him. "Is everything okay?" Ethan hesitated before answering. "I don't know. I fixed the car, but there's something about it that feels off." "What do you mean?" Claire asked, frowning slightly. "It's like I'm not sure what I fixed, exactly. That car isn't normal. It's got tech inside it that I've never seen before. Stuff that shouldn't even exist yet." Claire paused, her fork halfway to her mouth. "Are you saying it's dangerous?" "No, not necessarily," Ethan replied, shaking his head. "But it's complicated, and I can't stop thinking about Mr. Grayson. Why would someone like him bring a car like that to me? There are labs full of experts who could have figured it out way faster." "Well, maybe he heard about your reputation," Claire offered. "People trust you because you get things done." "Maybe," Ethan muttered, though he didn't sound convinced. Something about the situation gnawed at him, a nagging sense that he was missing something important. A week later, as Ethan was working on a routine oil change for one of his regular customers, the sleek black car returned. Mr. Grayson stepped out, looking composed but clearly relieved to see the vehicle running smoothly. He approached Ethan with an air of gratitude that was hard to ignore. "Mr. Carter," he began, extending his hand, "I owe you a debt of gratitude. When I left my car here last week, I wasn't sure what to expect. But you've exceeded my expectations." Ethan wiped his greasy hands on a rag and shook Mr. Grayson's hand. "Happy to help, though honestly, I'm still not entirely sure what I did. That car is unlike anything I've ever worked on." Mr. Grayson chuckled softly. "That's understandable. It's experimental, a prototype really. Most mechanics wouldn't even know where to begin. But you Well, let's just say your instincts are remarkable. Ethan felt a flicker of pride at the compliment, though it was quickly overshadowed by curiosity. If you don't mind me asking, what exactly is this car supposed to do? I mean, it's clearly more than just transportation. Mr. Grayson hesitated for a moment, as if weighing how much to reveal. Finally, he spoke. Let's just say it represents the future of autonomous vehicles. Artificial intelligence plays a key role in its operation. Normally, the system is flawless, but occasionally glitches occur. Your repair has resolved the issue, for now. For now? Ethan echoed, raising an eyebrow. Yes, Mr. Grayson admitted. These systems are self-learning. They adapt based on their environment and experiences. Sometimes those adaptations lead to unforeseen complications, but thanks to your work, we've bought ourselves some time to address the root cause, Ethan nodded slowly, processing the information. So, what happens next? Do you need me to keep tinkering with it? Mr. Grayson smiled faintly. Actually, I came here today to discuss something else entirely. Your ability to solve such a complex problem has caught my attention. You see, Novatech Industries, the company I represent, is always on the lookout for talented individuals. People who think outside the box, who approach challenges with creativity and determination. Ethan blinked in surprise. Wait, are you offering me a job? In a manner of speaking, Mr. Grayson replied. We're expanding our team, particularly in areas related to troubleshooting and innovation. Someone with your skills could be invaluable to us. Of course, this would require relocating to our headquarters in the city. The pay and benefits would be substantial, enough to provide financial security for you and your family. Ethan's mind raced. A job offer from a major corporation, it sounded too good to be true. But the idea of leaving Maple Ridge and giving up the life he'd built filled him with uncertainty. I appreciate the offer, he said carefully, but this is a lot to take in. I'll need some time to think about it. Of course, Mr. Grayson said, nodding. Take all the time you need. Just know that opportunities like this don't come around often. If you're interested, let me know within the week. After Mr. Grayson drove away, Ethan stood in stunned silence. His heart pounded as he tried to process what had just happened. A chance to work for a cutting-edge company, solving problems that most people couldn't even imagine. It was a dream scenario. Yet the thought of leaving behind everything familiar weighed heavily on him. When Claire came home that evening, Ethan told her about the offer. She listened intently, her expression thoughtful. This could change everything for us, she said finally. No more worrying about bills or scraping by. We could actually build a future. But what about the garage? Ethan countered. What about our friends, our home? This town is part of who we are. Claire placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. I know it's scary. Change always is. But sometimes taking a risk is the only way to move forward. You've worked so hard, Ethan. Don't you deserve a chance to see what else is out there? Her words struck a chord with Ethan. He spent the next few days wrestling with the decision, torn between the comfort of familiarity and the allure of opportunity. He walked through the empty garage late at night, remembering all the cars he'd repaired and the people he'd helped. At the same time, he imagined what it might feel like to tackle challenges that pushed the boundaries of human ingenuity. By the end of the week, Ethan made up his mind. He called Mr. Grayson and accepted the offer. Over the next month, he and Claire packed up their belongings and prepared to leave Maple Ridge behind. Saying goodbye to their neighbors and friends was bittersweet, but there was also a sense of excitement in the air. They were stepping into the unknown, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The city was overwhelming at first. Towering skyscrapers loomed over busy streets crowded with people rushing to and fro. Novatech Industries occupied a massive glass building downtown, its logo gleaming brightly against the skyline. On Ethan's first day, he arrived early, dressed in slacks and a button-up shirt that felt uncomfortably formal compared to his usual coveralls. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. Scientists and engineers bustled about, discussing projects that sounded like they belonged in science fiction novels. Mr. Grayson greeted Ethan warmly, and introduced him to several members of the team. Among them was Sarah, a young programmer with a quick wit and a passion for robotics, and Jake, a seasoned mechanic who shared Ethan's love of hands-on problem-solving. "They told me you're the guy who fixed the impossible," Jake said with a grin as they shook hands. "Glad to have you on board." Ethan laughed nervously. "Let's hope I live up to the hype." As the days turned into weeks, Ethan settled into his new role. His initial fear of being out of place faded as he proved himself capable of handling even the most daunting tasks. Whether it was diagnosing faulty drones or reprogramming malfunctioning robots, Ethan brought a fresh perspective that impressed everyone around him. Still, it wasn't always easy. The pace of work was relentless, and the stakes were higher than anything he'd experienced in Maple Ridge. Mistakes weren't just costly, they could jeopardize entire projects. But Ethan thrived under pressure, using his resourcefulness and determination to overcome obstacles. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Ethan found himself reflecting on how far he'd come. From a struggling mechanic in a small-town garage to a valued member of a groundbreaking company, his journey had been nothing short of extraordinary. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of purpose, a belief that he was exactly where he was meant to be. Little did he know, the challenges he'd faced so far were only the beginning. As Novatech continued to push the boundaries of innovation, Ethan would soon discover that the line between man and machine was thinner and more fragile than anyone could have imagined. Ethan's first few months at Novatech Industries were a whirlwind of new experiences. The city buzzed with life, and the company hummed with activity day and night. Every morning, Ethan walked into the sleek glass building feeling both excitement and pressure. He was no longer just a mechanic fixing worn-out engines in a quiet garage. Now he was part of a team working on projects that could shape the future. It was thrilling, but it also came with challenges he hadn't anticipated. At first, Ethan struggled to adapt. The other employees spoke in technical jargon that often went over his head. Words like neural networks, machine learning, algorithms, and adaptive feedback loops filled conversations, leaving him feeling out of place. Despite this, Ethan refused to let himself be intimidated. He spent hours after work reading articles and watching videos about artificial intelligence and robotics, determined to catch up. Slowly but surely, he began to understand the language of the engineers and programmers around him. Sarah, the young programmer who had introduced herself on Ethan's first day, became one of his closest allies. She noticed how hard he was working to keep up and offered to help whenever she could. "You don't need to know everything right away," she told him one afternoon as they worked together on a project involving autonomous drones. "Just focus on what you're good at, finding creative solutions. That's why you're here." Jake, the seasoned mechanic, also proved to be a valuable friend. Like Ethan, Jake had started out in small-town garages before joining Novatech. The two bonded over their shared background and often exchanged tips and ideas during lunch breaks. "This place can feel overwhelming sometimes," Jake admitted one day. "But remember, they didn't hire you because you're an expert in all this fancy tech. They hired you because you think differently. Trust your instincts." Ethan took their advice to heart. Over time, he grew more confident in his role. His hands-on experience and practical mindset set him apart from the highly educated engineers who relied heavily on theory. When problems arose, Ethan approached them with a blend of intuition and logic that surprised even his colleagues. More than once, his unconventional methods saved the team from costly delays. One such instance involved a fleet of industrial drones designed for use in hazardous environments. These drones were equipped with advanced sensors and AI systems meant to allow them to operate independently. However, during testing, several units experienced catastrophic failures, crashing or freezing mid-task without warning. The engineering team spent weeks analyzing data logs and running simulations, but they couldn't pinpoint the cause of the malfunctions. When Ethan was brought in to consult, he immediately noticed something unusual. Instead of focusing solely on the software, he examined the physical components of the drones. What he discovered shocked everyone. Tiny cracks in the circuit boards caused by vibrations during operation. These cracks disrupted the flow of electricity, leading to unpredictable behavior in the AI systems. "It's not just a programming issue," Ethan explained to the team. "The hardware isn't built to handle the stress of these environments. If we reinforce the circuits, the problem should go away." His solution was simple yet effective. By redesigning the internal framework of the drones to better absorb vibrations, Ethan eliminated the failures entirely. The success of the project earned him widespread recognition within the company. Even Mr. Grayson personally congratulated him, praising his ability to see connections others missed. Despite his growing confidence, Ethan still faced moments of doubt. The scale and complexity of the projects at Novatech were unlike anything he'd encountered before. One evening, after a long day troubleshooting a malfunctioning robotic arm, Ethan sat alone in his apartment, staring at the city lights outside his window. Claire had joined him in the move, taking a job as an administrative assistant at a nearby office. Though she supported him fully, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that he didn't belong in this world of cutting-edge technology. "What am I doing here?" he muttered to himself, running a hand through his hair. "I'm just a mechanic from Maple Ridge. How did I end up in a place like this?" Claire overheard him and walked over, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You're here because you're good at what you do," she said firmly. "Don't forget that. You've already proven yourself time and again. Stop doubting yourself." Her words reminded Ethan of why he'd accepted the job offer in the first place, to create a better future for himself and his family. With renewed determination, he pushed forward, embracing each challenge as an opportunity to learn and grow. As the weeks turned into months, Ethan became an integral part of the Novatech team. His contributions weren't limited to fixing mechanical issues. He also provided fresh perspectives on design and functionality. For example, when the company began developing humanoid robots intended to assist in disaster relief efforts, Ethan suggested incorporating modular parts that could be easily replaced in the field. This idea significantly improved the robots' durability and versatility, earning praise from both colleagues and executives. However, not everything at Novatech was smooth sailing. Rumors began circulating about corporate espionage, targeting the company's groundbreaking innovations. Files went missing, equipment malfunctioned inexplicably, and tensions rose among staff members. At first, Ethan dismissed the chatter as paranoia, but strange occurrences soon affected him directly. One night, while working late on a prototype for an autonomous delivery vehicle, Ethan noticed someone lurking near his workstation. Before he could confront the figure, it disappeared down a hallway. Suspicious, Ethan reported the incident to security, but they found no evidence of wrongdoing. Over the following days, minor accidents plagued his projects. A tool left out of place, wires disconnected, settings altered on machines. Each event seemed minor on its own, but taken together, they painted a troubling picture. Ethan confided in Sarah and Jake, who shared his concerns. "It's not just you," Sarah said grimly. "Someone's been tampering with my code too. Lines of programming are being deleted or rewritten overnight. And don't forget the drone crash last month," Jake added. "That wasn't an accident, it was sabotage." The trio decided to investigate further, pooling their resources and skills to uncover the truth. Ethan's practical mindset complemented Sarah's analytical expertise and Jake's technical knowledge, making them a formidable team. Together, they installed hidden cameras in key areas of the lab and monitored activity patterns for anomalies. Their efforts paid off when they caught footage of a shadowy figure sneaking into the facility late at night. The intruder wore a mask and gloves, moving with precision as they accessed restricted files and tampered with equipment. Ethan recognized the person's build and mannerisms. It was one of the junior engineers, someone Ethan had never suspected. Armed with proof, Ethan, Sarah, and Jake presented their findings to Mr. Grayson. The revelation shocked the executive, but he acted swiftly, firing the saboteur and tightening security measures throughout the company. In gratitude for their diligence, Mr. Grayson awarded the trio bonuses and publicly acknowledged their role in safeguarding Novatech's innovations. Though the immediate threat had been neutralized, the incident left Ethan unsettled. It was a stark reminder that the world of high-stakes technology came with risks he hadn't fully anticipated. Yet, despite the challenges, Ethan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He was no longer just a mechanic fixing broken cars. He was part of something bigger, contributing to advancements that could change lives. As he looked out over the sprawling city skyline from his apartment window one evening, Ethan reflected on how far he'd come. From struggling to make ends meet in Maple Ridge to standing at the forefront of innovation, his journey had been nothing short of extraordinary. And though the road ahead promised more obstacles, Ethan knew he was ready to face them head-on. Ethan's life at Novatech Industries had become a mix of triumphs and challenges. He was no longer the outsider who questioned whether he belonged in such a high-tech environment. Instead, he had earned the respect of his colleagues and proven himself as an indispensable member of the team. Yet with every success came new responsibilities and new dangers. The sabotage incident had shaken everyone at the company, but it also strengthened Ethan's bond with Sarah and Jake. The three of them formed an unofficial alliance, working together to tackle some of Novatech's most ambitious projects, while keeping an eye out for any further signs of trouble. Their partnership became a cornerstone of Ethan's confidence. Knowing he wasn't alone made the weight of his role easier to bear. One day, Mr. Grayson called Ethan into his office. The executive's expression was serious, though not unkind. "Ethan," he began, "I have a new assignment for you. It's sensitive." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Sensitive how?" Mr. Grayson leaned back in his chair and folded his hands on the desk. "We're developing a prototype humanoid robot designed for search and rescue missions in disaster zones. It's one of our most advanced projects yet, combining cutting-edge AI with highly durable materials. But we've hit a snag. During recent tests, the robot has shown erratic behavior, sometimes freezing mid-task, other times acting unpredictably aggressive." Ethan frowned. "Sounds like a software issue." "It might be," Mr. Grayson admitted. "But so far, none of our programmers have been able to isolate the problem. That's where you come in. Your ability to think outside the box makes you uniquely suited for this task. I want you to lead the effort to diagnose and fix whatever is wrong." Ethan felt a surge of both excitement and apprehension. Leading a project like this was a huge step up from anything he'd done before. Still, he nodded. "I'll do my best." The humanoid robot, codenamed Atlas, stood nearly 7 feet tall and looked eerily lifelike. Its sleek metallic frame housed complex machinery, including servos for movement, sensors for navigation, and an AI core capable of processing vast amounts of data in real time. Ethan spent hours studying its design, poring over blueprints and consulting with engineers. At first glance, everything seemed perfect. The hardware was flawless, the programming robust. So why was Atlas malfunctioning? Sarah joined him in the lab one afternoon, her laptop open as she scrolled through lines of code. "I've reviewed the AI algorithms," she said, shaking her head. "Nothing stands out as abnormal. It's almost like the glitches are random." "Random doesn't exist in machines," Ethan replied, tapping a pen against his notebook. "There's always a cause, we just haven't found it yet." Jake arrived later that evening carrying a toolbox. "Let me take a look at the joints," he suggested. "Maybe there's something mechanical causing the instability." Together, the trio dissected Atlas piece by piece. They tested each component individually, searching for weaknesses or inconsistencies. Days turned into weeks and frustration mounted. Just when Ethan began to doubt they'd ever solve the problem, he noticed something odd during one of the test runs. Atlas froze momentarily, then resumed moving, but not before emitting a faint buzzing noise from its chest cavity. "That sound," Ethan murmured, leaning closer. "It's coming from the AI core." He carefully opened the panel housing the core and examined it under a magnifying lamp. What he saw took his breath away. Tiny cracks spiderwebbed across the surface of the core, barely visible to the naked eye. These fractures disrupted the flow of electricity, causing intermittent short circuits that explained Atlas's erratic behavior. "This is it," Ethan said, pointing to the damage. "The core is failing. It can't handle the stress of constant high-speed computations. Sarah gasped. How did that happen? This material is supposed to be indestructible. Nothing's indestructible, Jake muttered. Even the best tech has limits. Ethan nodded. We need to reinforce the core. If we add a secondary layer of insulation, it should stabilize the system. Working late into the night, the team implemented Ethan's solution. When they powered up Atlas again, the robot moved smoothly, responding to commands without hesitation. The erratic behavior was gone. Word of their success spread quickly throughout Novatech. Once again, Ethan had proven his worth, earning praise from executives and colleagues alike. Mr. Grayson personally thanked him, saying, "You've saved us months of setbacks. Without your insight, this project could have failed entirely." Despite the victory, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something larger was at play. The cracks in Atlas's AI core hadn't formed naturally. They were the result of prolonged stress testing, pushed beyond safe limits. Someone had deliberately overloaded the system, likely hoping to sabotage the project. Ethan shared his suspicions with Sarah and Jake, who agreed that it was no coincidence. "We need to find out who's behind this," Sarah said firmly. "If someone wants to destroy our work, we can't let them get away with it." Ethan hesitated. "I don't know if we should jump to conclusions. Maybe it was just poor oversight." "No," Jake interjected. "This feels intentional. Someone's trying to slow us down. Or worse." Determined to uncover the truth, the trio began investigating quietly. They reviewed security footage, cross-referenced employee schedules, and analyzed data logs for anomalies. Their efforts eventually led them to a surprising discovery. The person responsible wasn't an external saboteur, but a senior engineer within the company. The engineer, a man named Daniel, had grown disillusioned with Novatech's direction. He believed the company prioritized profit over safety, rushing projects without proper testing. To expose what he saw as reckless behavior, Daniel had tampered with Atlas, intending to create a public failure that would force accountability. When confronted by Mr. Grayson, Daniel confessed, claiming his actions were meant to protect people, not harm them. While his intentions were debatable, the fallout was undeniable. Daniel was fired, and stricter protocols were implemented to prevent similar incidents in the future. The ordeal left Ethan deeply unsettled. For all its innovation and promise, Novatech operated in a world rife with ethical dilemmas and hidden agendas. As much as he loved his work, he couldn't ignore the darker side of the industry. Still, he refused to let fear paralyze him. If anything, the experience reinforced his commitment to doing things the right way, to balancing ambition with responsibility. His determination paid off when he was offered a promotion. Mr. Grayson appointed Ethan as head of troubleshooting, giving him oversight of all critical projects. It was a massive responsibility, but Ethan embraced it wholeheartedly. With Sarah and Jake by his side, he tackled challenges ranging from drone malfunctions to AI alignment issues, earning a reputation as one of the company's most reliable leaders. Claire watched her husband's transformation with pride. Gone was the weary mechanic struggling to make ends meet in Maple Ridge. In his place stood a confident, capable man who thrived in the face of adversity. Though she occasionally worried about the pressures he faced, she knew Ethan was exactly where he was meant to be. As the months passed, Ethan continued to push boundaries, driven by a desire to leave a lasting impact. He understood now that his journey wasn't just about personal success. It was about using his skills to make the world better. Whether it was repairing a broken machine or solving a problem no one else could see, Ethan approached every task with the same unwavering dedication. And yet, even as he rose higher within Novatech, Ethan never forgot his roots. He carried the lessons of Maple Ridge with him, the importance of hard work, humility, and trust. Those values guided him through every challenge, reminding him that true greatness lay not in titles or accolades, but in the difference he made in the lives of others. Ethan's promotion to head of troubleshooting marked a new chapter in his life at Novatech Industries. The position came with greater responsibilities. but it also gave him the freedom to explore ideas that had once seemed impossible. His role wasn't just about fixing problems anymore. It was about preventing them before they could arise. He led a team of engineers, programmers, and mechanics, all working together to ensure the company's groundbreaking projects succeeded without hiccups. At first, Ethan felt overwhelmed by the sheer scale of his duties. Managing people was very different from tinkering with machines. He had to balance technical decisions with interpersonal dynamics, making sure everyone on his team felt valued and heard. Sarah and Jake remained his closest allies, offering advice and support whenever he needed it. Their camaraderie helped ease the transition, reminding Ethan that he wasn't alone in this new challenge. One of Ethan's first major assignments as head of troubleshooting involved overseeing the development of a fleet of autonomous delivery drones. These drones were designed to transport goods across cities quickly and efficiently, reducing traffic congestion and pollution. On paper, the concept was brilliant, but in practice, it proved far more complicated than anyone had anticipated. The drones performed well during initial tests, navigating through urban environments with precision. However, as trials expanded to busier areas, issues began to surface. Some drones collided with obstacles they should have avoided. Others misread GPS signals, veering off course entirely. A few even crashed mid-flight, sparking concerns about public safety. When Ethan arrived at the testing facility, he found a group of frustrated engineers poring over data logs. "We've checked everything," one of them said, throwing up his hands. "The sensors are calibrated perfectly. The software is bug-free, and yet these glitches keep happening." Ethan listened carefully, then walked over to examine one of the damaged drones. He crouched beside it, inspecting its components closely. After a few minutes, he noticed something unusual: a tiny crack in the drone's camera lens. At first glance, it seemed insignificant, but Ethan knew better. Even the smallest imperfection could distort visual input, leading to catastrophic errors in navigation. "Have you tested the lenses under stress conditions?" Ethan asked, turning to the engineers. They exchanged glances. "Not specifically," admitted one of them. "We assumed they were durable enough." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "Let's run some simulations. If the lenses can't handle vibrations or temperature changes, they'll fail when the drones encounter real-world challenges." The team followed Ethan's suggestion, subjecting the lenses to rigorous testing. Sure enough, many cracked under pressure, distorting the drone's perception of their surroundings. By replacing the faulty lenses with sturdier alternatives, Ethan resolved the issue, allowing the project to move forward smoothly. As successful as the drone project was, it paled in comparison to the next challenge Ethan faced: developing a prototype for an AI-powered exoskeleton. Designed to assist workers in hazardous environments, the exoskeleton combined advanced robotics with neural interfaces, enabling users to control it using their thoughts. It was a marvel of modern engineering, but also a potential disaster waiting to happen. During early trials, the exoskeleton functioned flawlessly, responding instantly to commands and amplifying the wearer's strength tenfold. But as testing progressed, strange anomalies emerged. In one instance, the exoskeleton suddenly locked up, trapping the user inside until technicians could manually shut it down. In another, it moved erratically, nearly injuring bystanders. Ethan immediately suspected the neural interface was at a fault. While the hardware appeared sound, the software responsible for interpreting brain signals was highly sensitive. Any miscalculation could result in unintended movements, or worse. To address the problem, Ethan collaborated closely with Sarah, whose expertise in programming proved invaluable. Together, they rewrote sections of the code, refining the algorithms to improve accuracy. Meanwhile, Jake focused on reinforcing the physical structure of the exoskeleton, ensuring it could withstand sudden jolts or impacts. Their combined efforts paid off. After weeks of painstaking work, the exoskeleton operated seamlessly, earning praise from everyone involved. Mr. Grayson personally congratulated Ethan, calling the project a game-changer for industries reliant on manual labor. Despite these successes, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that Novatech's rapid growth carried inherent risks. The company was pushing boundaries faster than ever, launching ambitious projects one after another. While innovation drove progress, it also increased the likelihood of mistakes that could have devastating consequences. This concern became painfully clear when a minor oversight nearly caused a catastrophe. During a routine demonstration of a self-driving car prototype, the vehicle unexpectedly accelerated, narrowly missing a crowd of spectators. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but the incident sparked outrage among stakeholders and raised questions about the reliability of Novatech's technology. Ethan took the blame squarely on his shoulders. As head of troubleshooting, it was his job to catch such issues before they reached the public eye. Though Mr. Grayson assured him it wasn't entirely his fault, Ethan vowed to implement stricter quality control measures moving forward. He introduced mandatory double checks for all critical systems, requiring multiple teams to verify each component independently. He also advocated for longer testing periods, arguing that rushing products to market compromised safety. While some executives resisted these changes, citing delays and increased costs, Ethan stood firm. "If we cut corners now, we're setting ourselves up for bigger problems later," he told them. "We owe it to our customers and to ourselves to get this right." His persistence paid off. Over time, the new protocols became standard procedure, significantly reducing the number of incidents. Ethan's reputation as a leader grew stronger, not only because of his technical skills but also because of his unwavering commitment to accountability. Amidst the chaos of his professional life, Ethan made an effort to stay grounded. Claire remained his anchor, supporting him through late nights and stressful deadlines. She reminded him to take breaks, encouraging him to spend time away from work to recharge. On weekends, they explored the city together, visiting parks, museums, and restaurants. These moments of normalcy helped Ethan maintain perspective, reminding him that success meant nothing if it came at the expense of happiness. Even so, the weight of his responsibilities sometimes felt overwhelming. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Ethan sat on the balcony of their apartment staring out at the skyline. Claire joined him, handing him a cup of tea. "You look tired," she said softly. "I am," Ethan admitted. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing. All this pressure, it's a lot to carry." Claire smiled gently. "You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You're making a difference, not just for yourself, but for everyone who benefits from your work. That's worth fighting for." Her words reassured him, as they always did. Ethan realized that while the road ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, he had everything he needed to face it. His skills, his values, and the love of those around him. As months turned into years, Ethan continued to rise within Novatech. His leadership inspired others, fostering a culture of collaboration and innovation. Projects once deemed impossible became reality under his guidance. Yet, despite his achievements, Ethan never lost sight of who he was, a mechanic from Maple Ridge who believed in the power of hard work and perseverance. Little did he know, however, that his greatest challenge lay just around the corner. Rumors of a rival corporation's hostile takeover attempt began circulating, threatening to destabilize Novatech entirely. For Ethan, this would be more than just a professional hurdle. It would test every ounce of courage and creativity he possessed. But for now, he focused on the present, tackling each problem as it came. With Sarah and Jake by his side, and Claire cheering him on from home, Ethan faced the future with confidence. Whatever storms awaited, he was ready to weather them one solution at a time. The rumors started quietly, like whispers in the wind. At first, Ethan dismissed them as idle gossip. Novatech Industries was a leader in innovation, and competition was bound to breed jealousy. But as the weeks went by, the whispers grew louder. A rival corporation, known for its ruthless tactics, was plotting a hostile takeover of Novatech. The news sent shockwaves through the company, leaving employees uneasy and executives scrambling to protect their work. Ethan felt the tension acutely. As head of troubleshooting, he knew how vulnerable Novatech's cutting-edge projects could be if they fell into the wrong hands. Many of the technologies under development had dual uses. Tools meant to improve lives could easily be repurposed for harm. If the rival corporation succeeded in taking over, there was no telling what might happen to the innovations Ethan and his team had worked so hard to create. Mr. Grayson called an emergency meeting to address the situation. Standing in front of the assembled staff, he spoke with a calm but firm voice. "I won't sugarcoat it," he said. "We're facing a serious threat. Our competitors are determined to acquire us, not because they value our vision, but because they want to exploit our technology. We can't let that happen." He outlined a plan to strengthen Novatech's defenses, both legally and operationally. Key projects would be moved to secure facilities, sensitive data encrypted beyond reach, and security measures tightened across the board. Finally, he turned to Ethan. "You've proven time and again that you're capable of handling the impossible. I need you to oversee the protection of our most critical assets. This is your top priority." Ethan nodded, though his stomach churned with anxiety. Protecting Novatech wasn't just about safeguarding machines. It was about preserving the trust and effort of everyone who had poured their hearts into the company. He accepted the challenge, knowing failure wasn't an option. The next few days were a blur of activity. Ethan coordinated with Sarah and Jake to identify which projects were most at risk. They prioritized the exoskeleton prototype, the autonomous delivery drones, and Atlas, the humanoid robot designed for search and rescue missions. Each represented years of research and development, and losing them would set the company back immeasurably. Their first step was relocating the prototypes to a secure off-site facility. Under cover of darkness, Ethan supervised the transfer, ensuring every component was carefully packed and transported without incident. Once safely stored, the team installed additional safeguards, including biometric locks and surveillance systems. Even then, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing, a vulnerability waiting to be exploited. His instincts proved right when a suspicious email appeared in his inbox late one night. It contained a cryptic message. "Your secrets aren't safe. Surrender now or face the consequences." Attached was a photo of the exoskeleton prototype, taken from inside the supposedly impenetrable storage facility. Ethan's blood ran cold. Someone had breached their defenses and they weren't afraid to show it. He immediately alerted Mr. Grayson, who ordered a full investigation. Security teams combed the facility for signs of intrusion, while IT specialists traced the source of the email. What they discovered chilled them to the bone. The breach hadn't come from outside. It had been orchestrated by a disgruntled employee bribed by the rival corporation. The traitor was quickly apprehended, but the damage was done. Blueprints and schematics for several key projects had been leaked, giving the rival company access to Novatech's inner workings. Worse still, they had planted malware in the system, threatening to disable critical operations unless demands were met. Faced with this dire situation, Ethan gathered Sarah and Jake for an emergency brainstorming session. "We can't let them win," he said, pacing the room. "If we shut everything down to remove the malware, we'll lose weeks of progress. But if we leave it running, they'll take control." Sarah tapped her pen against her laptop thoughtfully. "What if we turn their own weapon against them? We know where the malware originated. Maybe we can trace it back to their servers and neutralize it from there." Jake nodded. "It's risky, but it could work. If we isolate the infected systems and redirect the attack, we might be able to buy ourselves enough time to fix the problem." Ethan agreed. "Let's do it. But we'll need to move fast and stay one step ahead of them." Working around the clock, the trio devised a plan. Using decoy servers, they lured the attackers into revealing their location. Then, with precise timing, they launched a counterattack, disabling the malware and severing the rival corporation's access to Novatech's network. It was a high-stakes gamble, but it paid off. By morning, the threat had been neutralized. The victory came at a cost. News of the attempted takeover spread, shaking investor confidence and casting doubt on Novatech's future. Employees worried about layoffs and budget cuts, unsure if the company could weather the storm. Amidst the uncertainty, Ethan found himself questioning whether he'd made the right choice accepting Mr. Grayson's offer all those years ago. Had he traded the simplicity of Maple Ridge for a life of constant battles? Claire noticed his mood during dinner one evening. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world," she said gently. "Talk to me." Ethan sighed, setting down his fork. "I don't know, Claire. Sometimes I wonder if I'm cut out for this. Every time we solve one problem, another pops up. It never ends." She reached across the table and took his hand. "But think about everything you've accomplished. You've protected people's jobs, kept groundbreaking technology out of the wrong hands, and inspired others to believe in what's possible. That matters, Ethan. Don't lose sight of that." Her words struck a chord. Ethan realized that while the challenges were daunting, they were also opportunities to grow, to push boundaries and make a real difference. He decided then and there to focus not on the obstacles, but on the impact he could have. In the months that followed, Novatech rebounded stronger than ever. The attempted takeover served as a wake-up call, prompting the company to adopt even stricter security measures and foster greater transparency among its staff. Morale improved as employees rallied together, united by a shared sense of purpose. For Ethan, the experience solidified his role as a leader. He continued to innovate, tackling new challenges with the same determination that had brought him success. His partnership with Sarah and Jake deepened, evolving into a friendship built on mutual respect and trust. Together, they pushed the boundaries of what was possible, earning recognition not just within Novatech but across the industry. Outside of work, Ethan cherished the moments he spent with Claire. Whether it was cooking dinner together or taking long walks through the city, these small joys reminded him of why he worked so hard, to build a better life for himself and those he loved. As he stood on the balcony of their apartment one evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Ethan reflected on how far he'd come. From a struggling mechanic in a small-town garage to a driving force behind some of the world's most advanced technologies, his journey had been anything but ordinary. Yet through it all, he had remained true to his values: hard work, creativity, and integrity. Little did he know his story was far from over. New challenges awaited, each promising to test his resolve and ingenuity in ways he couldn't yet imagine. But for now, Ethan felt content. He had faced adversity head-on and emerged stronger because of it. Whatever the future held, he was ready to meet it with courage, determination, and the unwavering belief that even the toughest problems could be solved with enough grit and heart.